Today's talk is entitled Comet ISON, More Science Mythology. So what I want to do is talk about Comet ISON. I don't profess to know a lot about it. What I do know about is the process of how orbs, bars and waves are the fundamental creative force, and you would expect to see these in space. So in a recent video by Courageous Nerd, he talks about Comet ISON, and around about 45, he goes into 45 minutes within that hour and 23 video. He goes to describe the images that go to make up Comet ISON. He then reduces the lux levels because the stars are shining too bright. It's been overexposed by NASA or by the Hubble telescope. This is the Hubble site, or one of the Hubble image sites, and as they reduce the light levels, the anomalies start to show. This is an image from the Hubble site itself, with the light level taken down of what is supposed to be Comet ISON. So, to me and my research, this is I can't say that it was what you would absolutely expect, but you expect to see bars in space. Rods, they've been described as rods, skyfish, and also the bars of the I Ching, which is a Chinese divination tool, but it actually is describing the physical reality of the massless particles of the universe. Maybe a bit heavy to describe, but there we go. Anyway, in a recent interview, it hasn't yet been released, I was talking about the evidence that I have for the bars. And so what I wanted to do is just show some of these in context. Now these have been slowed down. This is a 64th or 124th of the normal speed. So I don't know whether anyone can catch these, but they are the rods. If you notice in the center of that one there's a little dot. Well, that's the dot of the I Ching in the bar. So I've slowed it down to about 128, maybe even 256. And what you've got is the paired bars moving across the black blanket. This next shot is shown in will be shown in the infrared spectrum at the bottom of the blanket. You've got the paired rods or bars moving across the bottom of the blanket. They also divide in other ways, but when they divide you can't film them. They haven't got enough energy to reflect enough light. So until we get the high speed, high definition cameras, which cost a lot of money, we won't be able to reproduce the data. What you have here is a bar that's expanding. It's actually not getting any further away because it's going vertical, and yet it expands as it moves up from the floor. What you'll notice is a slight coloration difference in the middle, and that is the bar or the rod, the central point of the I Ching, which they talk about this as being the shape-changing dragon. So these form part of my data sets, and many years ago I was introduced to a site called Galaxy Zoo. This is the Hubble classification site. It's changed since I first went on it, and what they had is spiral clockwise, spiral anti-clockwise galaxy, and you could start classification. And if you set up your own account, you could start classifying the many billions, I suppose, of images that Hubble were producing. And it was sent to me as a link in my university. So I was interested in finding the bars in space. This would have been around about 2006. I first came across the Galaxy Zoo Hubble classification site. So I quickly was looking for, as you can imagine, I have video of the bars and I have digital stills of the bars, so they match. So we have a still image taken at the time we were using 2 million pixel cameras. That shows how long ago it was. I think, in fact, it was 1.2 million pixel cameras that we started off with, but that's a long way in the past. So what we have here is one of the bars or rods. I don't want to talk too much about how they converted to orbs and things like that at this particular moment. And alongside it, we have some of those images which I pulled off the Galaxy Zoo site of the bars in space. Now, I was making a prediction that the bars would be in space, and they are in space. I also then went on to formulate other theories, such as bars would be seen on the surface of planets with magnetic fields. I don't want to go into that, it's too complicated, but it forms part of the orb bar fugolite theory, and I'll leave it at that. So obviously I came up with the idea, in the book I hinted it, and probably strongly hinted it, that string theory is actually a fractal and it isn't solely quantum, and what we are observing within these things are the fractal nature of the universe, and the fractal nature of the 96% that creates matter. And again, I don't particularly want to go into the hon-on, the spin-on, and how the electron is formed. So anyway, during this period of searching, I came across Martin Stubbs. He was an American broadcaster. Anyone who trying to get a handle on what ISON is, or what these things are, needs to have a look at the secret NASA transmissions. He was a Canadian broadcaster. He was downloading direct links from NASA, and he talks in his video, and this is the secret NASA transmissions, the smoking gun. It's presented by UFO TV. And at 17 minutes 25, he talks about the two space phenomena. He talks about space phenomenon A, which is the orb, or the sphere, and there are many, many different types of orbs. And he talks about space phenomenon B. What he doesn't realize is that the orb converts to the bar, and the bar converts to the orb. But he's obviously observed the same thing as I have. What he hasn't got is the data to prove that, or at least the data that proves the conversion of the orb into the bar, and the bar into the orb. So what we have is two frames. This is a frame from that video at 147. Sorry, at 2836. Where he shows one of the rods, and in the second frame, and he also talks in the same terms of how quickly they move, how you have to slow down the video. So his experiences are the same as mine, although he comes from a broadcast technical background, and I've just come from this from a research best methodology of recording this stuff. So what he had is two bars, that they move. He obviously hasn't had the conversion, and so what I want to do now is just draw attention to the image of ISON, the image of the NASA Hubble, other NASA Hubble images in space, and during the classification time, they've changed it now. When you saw one of these, because they gave you tutorials to run through, what they would ask you to say is don't know. You put it in the don't know category. Well, I did know, and the reason why I was on the Galaxy Zoo site was to look and find these bars in space. So I found them, and I also found Martin Stubbs' NASA missing gun, and it all fits together. It was all what I was expecting. At the bottom, so these images of one of Comet ISON, or supposedly Comet ISON, unfortunately badly named. We have the bars in space, which at the time that I was classifying or I was doing the tutorials on Galaxy Zoo, it was a don't know. And the other bar was taken in Tinacoid Woods, just by the path where the little river runs. The other inset image is from digital video. It's filmed in the infrared, and it's the paired split bar. So we can see a similarity to all these objects, and it was what I was predicting. So what I've got here is a very fast moving image which nobody's going to make any sense of, and what we have is the bar converting into the orb, being compressed into the sphere on a point of energy, and then it is returned from the place of where it came. These things are moving so fast. You know, you can see me in the background with John, and we're not even moving now. And we got the bar converting into the sphere. Obviously, billions and billions of pounds have been spent on CERN trying to find these particles when they're actually a fractal. And more money should be spent by the science world to investigate this. It is not up to one individual to find this out. And so what we have is string theory. These strings and strands convert into spheres, open or closed strings in string theory terms. And so we return back to the image of the ISON. Anyone can recognize the similarities between that. And my final image is just ties into that last video of where the orb, if you notice the directional arrow, this is why the comet's tails seem to point in the opposite direction in which they're travelling. It's because they're actually travelling, they're being sucked and pulled by magnetic fields. What we are looking at here is a process which will eventually destroy the linear mechanistic model of the universe. If we observe it properly, eventually the cat will come out of the bag, so to speak. So, Comet ISON, hardly a comet, although there may be a piece of debris in the center of it, but it's interacting with the particles of creation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.